very special conversation that we have today. I'm really excited about our panelists. First and foremost, again, I want to remind you guys, for those of you who are here for the first time, that this is a place of conversation, a place of networking, also a place of learning and growth and discussions of best practices and what that looks like for higher education for individuals currently and formerly incarcerated. And so we have a platform of like-minded individuals that are here to learn best practices, to discuss what they're doing, their work, and how we can bring that great work that is being done across the nation to our communities. And so that's where we land with Unlock Higher Education. For those of you who have been here before, thank you for always joining us and coming back and being a supporter. And for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, again, you know, this is a place of community. And we definitely encourage everybody to discuss the work that they're doing as well. We give space and platform for those. So if you're interested on being a speaker or interested in joining our subcommittees and the work that is being done, we'll discuss a little bit further about those issues later on. But with no further ado, we're going to break out into a couple of breakout rooms, and we're going to give a few minutes just to get to know each other. I see some new faces here, so I want to make sure that we got space for that and for learning of each other and the work that we're doing. So once you break out into the room, if you give your name, your location, the organization, and what brings you here to this group of Unlocking Higher Education, and then we will reconvene and discuss a few of those before we get into our special speakers of the day. And Mickey will be sending you guys into some breakout rooms. So name, location, and what brings you. Few of those conversations that we weren't able to finish, if you're interested in completing that. And I'll bring it to Michelle because we cut her off on the middle of her conversation, and I just want to learn a little bit more about where she is at and the work that she's doing. Michelle?
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So I was saying I'm at the Borough of Manhattan Community College in New York City, and we're really excited because for the first time, the City University of New York, which is a collection of 18 campuses, is offering a degree inside a facility in New York State. And it's taken decades for this to happen. So I'm really, really excited to be on the team that's making that happen. And so we're offering an associate's degree in liberal arts at Otisville Correctional Facility, a men's medium facility in upstate New York. And so I'm actively recruiting faculty to teach in our program. And I also work closely with Lisa Rose, my colleague from Human Services, who's here today. We've been working with an organization on our campus called Project Impact, which is essentially a campus-based reentry program. We support justice-involved students. We have a very, very broad definition of justice involvement. So you don't yourself have to be personally justice involved, but if someone in your family has been impacted, or in your close friend network, we support students to succeed in their educational goals. And Lisa and I are currently working with the director of Project Impact, Thomasina Ferratro, on research about all of the exciting things that are happening in California, because we're absolutely gobsmacked that you got funding for supporting justice involved students from the state. And so we're very, very eager to learn more. So thank you so much. I appreciate you holding this space, and thank you for letting me say hello.
Great. Well, thank you for all that great information. And I'm sure people are taking notes. I sure am. So we'll definitely be getting some follow-up calls for you there. Anybody else wants to share what they learned or who they met during this one-on-one? All right.
I met Larry, and I met, oh my gosh, where'd she go? Mary. Larry and Mary. Larry's from the state of Washington. He is doing a lot of great work there. And Mary is from, I don't remember where you're from, Mary.
Right.
Where was it?
I'm in from Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah.
So both are really involved in the space, and Larry works heavily with the native population, and that's needed. And Mary is, well, I consider her my Fed sister now.
Yeah, thank you, Vanessa. Yeah, Vanessa is very heavily involved with the Native population, and there was a lot of girls in Fed that were from that population. So I'm really very interested in that as well. So they're doing great work on the West Coast, both Vanessa and the work that Larry's doing too. It was great.
Awesome, awesome. And I see something was put in the chat. Meg put in the chat, wanted to quickly share for organizations in Michigan. We've launched a reentry and workforce development grant with a 10/31, 5 p.m. Eastern deadline. So email in case you are interested at the Justice Fund at cfsem.org. And there's a link on there. So please take a look at that, take advantage of that. Again, this is exactly what we want to be, is a community of resources, a community of conversations for best practices and how we can network and level up our services, right? Our work. And with that, I'm going to now, and the agenda has been shared in the chat. So if you want to follow the agenda, that's great. I'm going to now bring it on to our guest speakers for this month. I'm excited to say that we have three guest speakers, and they're all from the West Coast. And I'm also excited to showcase the work that is being done on the West Coast, because a lot of times we focus on the East Coast and, maybe a little bit of Central, but we haven't really ventured out to what's going on in the West Coast, and there's a lot of great stuff going on there. And I just want to make sure that we pull that community as well, because again, this is a nationwide platform that we want to bring in best practices from all over the nation. And so we have three of our speakers today. One of them is Vanessa Rojas, who is an agent of change and community organizer. She's committed to abolishing systems of oppression. Having served 4 years in federal prison, she is pursuing a degree in law, public policy, and society, while managing special projects at Palomar Community College in the Office of the President. Vanessa is a motivated public speaker and advocate for criminal justice reform, working in several grassroots, including FAM and Initiative Justice Action. She's coming from Palomar program. Did I get that right?
Projects, managing special projects for the Rising Scholars Program.
Sorry about that. Okay.
Got it. You got it.
Great. Thank you so much. And then we got Hector Cervantes, who is the director of the UCI Underground Scholars Program. Having experienced both incarceration and higher education, Hector leverages his unique life experiences to increase access to the University of California, UC, for justice-impacted individuals. He earned his BA in History and Masters of Urban and Regional Planning at UCI. Welcome, Hector. And then we finally have Irene Sotelo, and she is the director of California State University Long Beach Project Rebound. Using both her lived experience and the knowledge she has gained in academia, Irene has discovered her calling to empower those who feel marginalized in society to pursue higher education. So I'm excited to have these scholars from the West Coast, and they're all focused on the path of higher education. And with that, I'll bring it to the three of you. Vanessa?
Thank you, everybody, for having me. Thank you, Judith, for inviting me. And I know we have 10 minutes each, so I'm hoping somebody can be aware of the time, because I'll keep talking, and just send me a little, like, maybe text message or emoji or something. So a little bit about me is that I experienced childhood trauma at a very young age, and it put me on a path of addiction. So I was addicted to drugs for over 20 years, mainly heroin. During that time, I gave birth to 3 children. I was in an abusive relationship with their father, and that kind of continued. That was a pattern of the men in my life. So my youngest daughter was born with special needs. She requires 24 hours of care. She's still alive, thank goodness. And I stayed on drugs most of their life. And I was also had got diagnosed with all kinds of mental health disorders, schizophrenia, bipolar, you name it. I was diagnosed with it. And I was on a lot of psychotropic medications, a lot of heavy ones. I had been in and out of probably every mental health institution in Southern California. Was in and out of every treatment facility down here. It was like a revolving door for me. The jails, in and out of jail, all the COs knew me by my name. Sometimes I'd just be out days and back in. I couldn't get clean. I could not get clean for the life of me. I didn't know how. With everything that they tried to help me, nothing worked. At some point, a couple times, the judge would put me in jail because he was concerned for my life, because my toxicology reports were off the charts. That's how much drugs I would have in my system. So I ended up I made impulsive decisions all the time. And one of my impulsive decisions was to marry somebody 2 weeks before I was gonna be sentenced on my federal prison term. And that was a complete failure. And I learned a lot from my mistakes. I learned so much. And I think my rock bottom was federal prison. My rock bottom was when I was in federal prison, and it was during COVID. COVID was starting, so we were on lockdown. My mom was on her deathbed. My son had a cancerous tumor in his lung. My oldest daughter had Graves' disease. I was so worried that my special needs daughter was going to end up in the system, and that I really wasn't going to have a family to come home to. So I got on my knees and I prayed, and it wasn't just one prayer. I poured my heart out all night. And I always tell people that, the 12 steps of NAAA talks about a spiritual awakening. I lived out those 12 steps, but for me, it wasn't a spiritual awakening. It was an actual encounter with God, and that's what changed my life. So from that point, when I was in prison, I became an advocate from the inside, and I really wanted to get enrolled in higher ed in prison, but there was just so many barriers because I was at FCI Tallahassee, and the way the policies were set up in there was you had to have a liaison. And because I was from the state of California, there was I think it was Coastline Community College had a program it was a correspondence course. And I tried to get information on that, but the correctional staff, there was no help. There was no help from them. Nobody really wanted to do anything outside of their job description. Nobody wanted to look stuff up. There was just so many barriers. So I knew that my best chances of education, higher ed, was going to have to wait till I got out. So when I got out, I got a year of halfway house time and ended up getting a compassionate release through the First Step Act from the halfway house, with the help of FAM. And I am a member of FAM, like she said, it's Families Against Mandatory Minimums. I'm a member of Initiate Justice Action here in the state of California. So with the help of FAM, I was able to get an attorney pro bono who got me out on a compassionate release. So at the halfway house, I wanted to enroll in higher ed from the halfway house, but it was during COVID and they were not allowing us to do that, which didn't make any sense to me because they wanted us to work and take public transportation to work, but they were not allowing us to go to school. So I was just never satisfied with these answers of why I couldn't do it. And I knew, okay, well then I'm just going to wait, because at that point, I was kind of in a place of acceptance, and I was learning how to pick and choose my battles, where I was going to put my energy towards. And I was just waiting for the opportunity. So we had at the halfway house in San Diego, they had a computer lab. It was like a job search lab. And there was flyers tucked in a corner on a way in the corner. There was like a stack of papers. They were old, they were dusty. And I, for some reason, gravitated toward that stack of papers, and I started looking through them. And at the very bottom, I saw a flyer for a program of formerly incarcerated people in higher ed, and it was in one of the campuses in San Diego, and I don't even remember what it was called. I think it was must have been Southwestern, if I'm not mistaken. And I my jaw dropped, because it was exactly what I had been thinking about when I was in prison. When I was in prison, I wanted to start one of these programs, because I didn't even know they existed. And I was thinking, not knowing that Irene and Hector were already like part, and Irene was part of like starting the Rising Scholars Program. I didn't even know that. So I'm thinking, okay, I had this brilliant idea. I'm going to start one of these programs. Well, they already existed. So I called the people on the flyer, and I after talking to them, I realized, you know what would be the point of enrolling down here when I'm going to end up going home soon? Because I knew I was going to get a compassion release. I was just waiting for the judge to rule on it. So I asked them if they had any programs up here in North County, and they did. And Palomar was one of them, and Miracosta was the other one. And I ended up going to Miracosta because Palomar was doing their summer cohort. And so I went to Miracosta for a while, and that kind of got me started on this path. And I learned a lot from Miracosta. I was very grateful for what I learned from them and the connections I made there, which I still have to this day. Well, I ended up taking a stats class here at Palomar College because a teacher, everybody's like, take Dr. Miller, take Dr. Miller. And I'm really glad I did, because stats was something I really needed extra help on. So I enrolled, I was dual enrolled, I guess. Would it be dual enrolled? Dual enrolled on both campuses. And when I was here, I realized that, you know what, there's more opportunities on this campus right now than there are on the other one. And I think because this campus has the support of the president's office. This, like, it's just a really, really, really big program. We have institutional support. So I ended up transferring completely over here, and I got offered a job in the president's office. And part of my job is managing special projects for the Rising Scholars Program. So I always highlight that because the president here on campus, Dr. Star Rivera Lacey, she's given me an opportunity that I might not have had at any other campus, because I'm the first student to work in her office, for her office, and I'm the first formerly incarcerated student. So that's like, that to me just speaks volumes. So I'm here on campus. Our program is huge, and so the Rising Scholars Program is part of it's a network. It's all across the state of California, and we just recently celebrated a 10-year anniversary, and I saw Irene there, and one of the flyers that says that we're in 93 campuses, 33 California Department of Corrections state prisons, 9 federal prisons, 32 county jails, 51 youth facilities, 4 fire camps, 84 on-campus programs, together serving 129 correctional institutions across the state. And I'm just really grateful to be part of this movement, because it's not just education, it's a movement. And it's opened my eyes to a lot of things, and it's given me opportunities like that I don't think I would have gotten anywhere else. I don't credit like education for changing my life. I think I give that credit to God, but I credit education for giving me opportunities and educating me in a way that I don't think I could have gotten anywhere else without, with the lived experience and education. It's just, there's so many things that I just didn't even think about, because I always say I lived in a box, and my box was my mindset. My mindset was living in like the barrio, you know what I mean? Like that gang mentality. It keeps you imprisoned in that mindset. And I think once I was able to see a world outside of those boundaries, my life changed. And we have so much support here on campus, like with Hector and Irene, because we work together. They're my colleagues, and I consider them family. We just want to help people, and I think that's true for a lot of us who come from prison. We want to come out and we want to help people. And it's what's so great about this program is we're like-minded, like all my peers. We have an amazing coordinator. We have an amazing team here on campus. And it's impacted people in so many positive ways that the DA's office has donated money to our program 3 years in a row. We get people coming in daily, just by word of mouth. We don't even have to recruit anymore. We have a really good relationship with the parole department, that the head of the parole is actually one of my mentors. And now, you know, and I never thought I would have a relationship like that with a parole agent. And she wasn't even my parole agent. She became a friend and a mentor. And it was through a resource fair that we had here on campus that I invited them to. And when I went to the parole office, she wasn't there. And I spoke to one of her colleagues and I handed him a flyer. I said, look, we're like, I want to help. We want to help people. We want to help your clients. Please have them come here. And she ended up coming and we just hit it off from there, you know, and there's been times where she would call me and she would say, look, I have a client who I'm about to send him back. I'm like, no, 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 tell him to come here on campus. Let's see what we can do. Like, that's like her last resort. She'll call us. I don't want to send him back. I don't want to send him back. And, you know, we have a lot of resources here, you know, when we get people, when they come here, we'll direct them to the TRIO. It's NCEOC, North County Educational Opportunity Center. They help them get onboarded. Give them the student ID. It's like a process that they have to walk through. They'll help them. If they don't know technology, they'll help them. They'll walk them through the process. We give them the resources here on campus, the wraparound resources. How are we on time?
Time
Okay.
is for you, but
Okay, got it.
you're giving us all this
Oh,
information.
yeah,
Which
I
is
think,
one of the things
you
I
know,
do want
so-
to point out that is also
Uh-huh.
extremely important, and I'm glad that you highlighted it, is the willingness of the staff and the people who run that program to be interested in getting, you know, that work done and doing that extra, you know, going that extra mile. And that makes a big difference when it comes to service.
Right. So, you know, we have the parole to college pipeline, right? So I'm the college, Palomar Rising Scholars is a college part. And then we have the pipeline directly to Irene and Hector through our connections. So with that, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and, I don't know who wants to go next.
Seems like Hector is ready.
If it's okay with you, Irene. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Vanessa, for sharing. Thank you all for having us. I'm happy to share a little bit of my trajectory and maybe expand a little more on the work we're doing here in California. So my name is Hector Cervantes, and as was mentioned earlier, I direct the Underground Scholars Program at UCI. And we also serve formerly incarcerated and system impacted students. And something that's, I think, not unique to underground scholars, it's kind of a reoccurring theme in California. A lot of our programs came out of initiatives of students, of trailblazers that were wanting to create spaces for people with our lived experience. And that's the same with underground scholars. Um, it actually started at UC Berkeley, and then it started expanding to other campuses. It started at UC Berkeley in 2013, and in 2018, I was part of a group of students that started it at UC Irvine. We were fortunate enough to receive state funding in October of 2021. I'm sorry, 6 months, no, it's 2022 actually. We received state funding to continue programs ongoing throughout the University of California. Um, so yeah, and since then, pretty much hit the ground running at UCI. Um, you know, we started with 10 students. We're now at 95 students. I think our biggest hurdle was clearing the hurdle of stigma, chipping away at stigma. So I think we've accomplished that. As Vanessa mentioned earlier, like we no longer have to recruit as much. Students are now coming out on their own. I think that's one of our biggest hurdles that we crossed. Um, but yeah, and then now, as Vanessa mentioned earlier, we're working together to build a prison to university pipeline. So Irene and I actually sit on the planning committee for this conference that started. I actually kicked it off my first year, working in my current capacity. Irene hosted it the second year. And then this third year, we decided to take a pause, but to work on formalizing our structure, our decision-making process, and really lay out the work ahead of us. I think we're just getting started, and great things are yet to come. We're really just working together because we're all state funded. Rising Scholars Network, Project Rebound, Underground Scholars. And so we're taking the initiative and continuing to trailblaze, um, so that we're all aligned, right? With the direction that we want to go, making sure that our students are being served as best as possible, that we're not being redundant in our services, that we're identifying any support gaps that we need to fill. And so, yeah, I'm giving a really broad overview and just trying to give you what I think is the most impactful. Um, each system is different at UCI or in the UC system in general. We really focus on helping folks navigate the application process because it's not easy to navigate. And so I think at the Cal State, the support looks different. So it varies, but I think it's great that we're all coming together and just tackling it right together as a united front. And that's kind of the next phase. We all set out to establish these spaces in every tier of higher education in California, and now we're coming together, and the work's just going to continue. So, yeah, that's a little bit, about the work that I'm focusing on. I'm happy to expand or answer any questions. I don't want to take up too much space, but with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Irene and yeah, see if she has anything. If I missed anything, let me know, Irene.
Thank you, Hector. You did say a few things about the conference, which I was gonna go ahead and I could elaborate more if you need me to. But thank you guys for having me. This is an honor actually, and I just discovered that me and Vanessa have a lot in common. Hearing her story, and I think that goes with a lot of us who are formerly incarcerated, especially us women. We have a lot of trauma, and that also set me on my trajectory the way I was brought up. Basically, I was 12 years old, 11, actually was 11, 2 days before my 12th birthday. My mother committed suicide. There's no father in the picture, and I'm the oldest of 5 children. The twins were only 9 months old when they passed. So having to, deal with that when that happened, I dropped out of school. I wasn't in the mindset to continue school because I had to help take care of the twins. They were, babies and my brothers, and then not realizing I'm going through all this trauma at 12 years old, going through puberty, emotionally, mentally. I should not have been going through what I went through at that age. So that sent me in the direction of I started using drugs. And I didn't realize why I was using drugs. I just knew drugs helped me. And got worse into drugs. I was using PCP, which if anybody knows what PCP is, it's basically you're whacked out of your mind. I did that all the way until, I was almost 18 years old. I was just addicted to drugs. While you're into drugs, I started gangs at 12, my first arrest at 12, in and out with getting arrested. But I was juvenile, so I get let out. So I didn't have to continue. I'd be on probation, but I violated, going back and forth. I was a brat. I was bad out there in those streets. And still not realizing I was looking for something that I wasn't getting at home. My grandparents were really old to help us. They didn't speak English. They didn't have no education. So I thought I didn't need education. And just the way my life went, there was a lot more trauma added being in gangs. There was a lot more trauma that I was doing to myself and not realizing that. And fast forward, I ended up having 2 children from their father. I met him when I was 15. Their father was abusive and he was an alcoholic. Well, an alcoholic and a drug addict together does not go good, so I had a lot of domestic violence. But in my mind, it was somebody who loved me no matter what he did. Some attention is better, bad attention is even better than no attention. And I lived like that with him and my kids for over 20 some years. And I did get sober when my kids were maybe like 5, 6 years old. I finally got completely sober, but I ended up getting cancer. I was diagnosed with cancer, and I end up getting addicted to the pain medication again. I was free of drugs for at least maybe 6, 7 years, and maybe a little bit longer. And I end up going into remission. When I went into remission, at the age of 32, well, I end up getting addicted to the pain medication. So there I go again, spiraling on drugs. And then I end up getting introduced to methamphetamine. And that took me out of my home of 19 years with my kids and the father. I left my home to live in the street, which that was more trauma. Living in the parks, living in the riverbed, and doing the most to chase a drug. I was brutally raped, left for dead. And I wasn't supposed to make it, but unfortunately I did. But didn't realize that I'm also causing the trauma on my children, knowing their mother was out there. But still, that didn't take me out of my drug. The drug was the most important thing in my life. And it was hard. It was very hard. Finally, I ended up getting arrested to go to prison. And when I went to the county jail, because I was on drugs for 2 years straight, not being sober, they told me I was going to get 7 years. When I heard the news, I went back to the county. I suffered a stroke. So I'm left side paralyzed now because of the drug damage that did to my body. And when I had a stroke, I'm going to county jail. I had court 18 times in 1 month, barely trying to, nobody wants to help you in there. Nobody wants to push you. Nobody wants to do nothing. You're just having to learn everything on your own. I'm trying to push a wheelchair with my right side, just trying to get to where I need to go. And you can't do the wheels because you're not going nowhere but in circles. So it was hard. But I got sent to prison. I prayed, just give me do my time. So the judge had leniency and only gave me 3 years. The DA. So I went to prison. I was determined to walk again. Got myself rehabilitated, and before the year, I was able to walk out of the wheelchair in a walker. And it was hard, but mentally, I did that. I had to, because I knew, nobody was going to help me in prison either. So when I got out, I went to a program. So here I am at a program. I'm already 40, I think 46, 47. I never had a job in my life, no education. I'm disabled and in a program, but I didn't want to be homeless again. So what do? Somebody came to school. I went to started school for the wrong reason, because a girl came with this little credit card saying, you get paid to go to school. So let me try that, because I didn't want to be homeless. So I did. I went to the school and they said, yeah, you get paid to start in classes. So I don't know what I'm doing. I had to do this test and they said I scored the lowest of the lowest. So I started my math at the lowest English, but I did, day one to see how this goes. First semester, C's. Well, they say C's to get degrees. So I continued, but I got my first A in a criminal justice class. And that gave me that satisfaction that I've never felt, something I did for myself. I finally did something. So I challenged myself. Let me see if I could do this again. Let me see if I could do. By the time I graduated my community college, I graduated with the president's list, the dean's list. I graduated the highest honors because of the challenge I did. So I said, let me transfer. Let me see if I could try. And I transferred to Cal State Long Beach 2016. When I did, my first professor in a criminal justice class, he says, yeah, anybody know anybody formerly incarcerated? He goes, well, now you do. He graduated. He went to prison for 4 years for killing his best friend in a manslaughter. It was manslaughter for a DUI accident. He did his LSATs in prison, passed his LSATs in prison, came out as an attorney, and now he's a professor. So after school, I said, how do I get to where you're at? I could do what you're doing. He says, you could do whatever you want. I said, well, help me, And so end of 2016, he introduced me to 2 other students who were formerly incarcerated. One did 20 years, and we started this. We're co-founders of this student org called Rising Scholars. And so there was a first formerly incarcerated student organization on campus. So in 2016, I heard about Project Rebound. And I didn't know the difference, but then I figured one's an organization, one's a program, which Project Rebound was started by John Irving. It was back in 1969. He started in San Francisco. So while they expanded they got a grant, so they expanded to 8 more campuses. So there was 9 campuses that had it. and we just missed that grant. So in 2017, I started, I was able to work with Project Rebound, and also like kind of stepped in as the coordinator at Project Rebound for Long Beach. We just didn't get the funding, but I had students. So they let me be in the meetings and let me go travel with them to their graduations and stuff like that. So with that work, I was able to, in 2020, through a pandemic in my master's, was able to bring Project Rebound to Cal State Long Beach because of the work that I did volunteer. I did it for 4 years, volunteer. And now in 2020, they said we have a chapter. We got new funding. So we added Project Rebound at Cal State Long Beach. I have the support of my president. She said, when I went to go get a job, I don't have a job. I never worked. What do I do? It's my first interview for a job. And so the president gave me a letter of recommendations because she's been following me since I started the student org. And so having a letter from the president made a difference. And I got the position, my first job ever, working at Cal State Long Beach. And at the time I was program coordinator. Within the year, I was the director. I started with 9 students, me being one of them, through a pandemic. And I'm now at 115 students as of today. The work that we do together, I've been all that time I started networking. I met Danny Murillo, which is my homeboy from Norwalk, and he's the one who co-founded Underground Scholars. So working with him, I was able to meet a lot of people, hundreds of us that are formerly incarcerated, going to conferences together, having meetings together, collaborating on different panels together. So I helped build this prison to school pipeline with them. And it's grown. I mean, now we're in the thousands. We had our graduation last year, because every year all the Project Rebounds that we're in 19 campus of the 23, we bring our graduates to a graduation. We had 280 graduates from all 19 campuses total, and that's big. And Long Beach last year had 35 graduate just from my campus alone, which was one of the biggest for being one of the new campuses. That was pretty good. So that was an accomplishment we did. And it's all the hard work. Now I work for the prison education project. On the weekends, I go into the prisons. It's called PEP. I go into the prisons and I teach basically a class of professional writing, showing the men in there how to use your skills and put it in your narrative. For when you get out, it's your bio. You have skills. And then also showing them that, hey, if I could do it, you could do it. And at my age, I graduated with my master's at the age of 56. I'm the example. It's never too late to start your journey. And so with Hector, we started that, the prison to university collaboration. And the first one I helped build it, but I had to go to the prison, so I didn't make it. But the second one we hosted, and we had like 200. It was a 2-day conference. We had like over 200 the first day, and another 100 and something the next day. But it's like after the pandemic, there wasn't no more conferences like that. So these 2 conferences basically brought people to get the experience that I got to experience, the networking. After that, people said, when are we having the next one? When are we going to do the next one? Because they loved it. The connections that were made in these conferences it's amazing. I see now these people who were met at the conference who are now good friends out there doing other stuff. So that's what I like about what we do, what we build. And I'm an open book. My story's an open book. I've been published. So if anybody want to look me up, look at my name. But I love the collaboration I do with these scholars, because they're still scholars to me. And this is just the beginning. Like Hector said, we're going to be knocking down doors that were normally shut for us, which we have already. And I do it because of all the damage that I have done in society. I'm paying it forward, giving back, because I feel what I give back is, something amazing to those who never knew. And if I could help one person, I'm doing my job. That's what I got to say.
Wow. Thank you guys for sharing these amazing and impactful stories. Yeah. And there's one thing that truly resonates is that, number one, perseverance and the willpower of that person. If you want to succeed, if you are willing to, you will. And so that's what I've heard from many of you. And, that's amazing to see that, we can do this no matter what kind of barriers, or no matter what kind of struggles, no matter what kind of, issues we are. If we want to, we could be resilient enough and able to do so. And number two is, if you connect yourself with a good network and a good community that is willing and there to help you and to elevate you, that also makes a big difference, because it takes a village. We're not alone. We shouldn't be alone. And it's a matter of seeking those who are there to help you, and they're there for you. So it's revising that network that you had in the past and really making it now selections to those individuals that are really truly there to help you. So it's extremely important to have a good network and a good connection. And as Dr. Andres says, you have to have a mentor, you have to have a coach, and you have to have a sponsor. So if you can get connected with individuals like that, you're definitely going to have much more great results in your journey, because there are many barriers that you're going to be exposed to. And with that, I'll take a few minutes for a couple of questions that you guys may have. And I know, Michelle, you have been wanting to ask a question, so I'll bring that to you.
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes.
so hi, so nice to meet you. This is my first time joining your meeting. I'm very proud of your stories, proud of your work. I'm out of Chicago. I'm a public high school teacher over 30 years, and I do independent work in Cook County Jail, helping people. I'm a Spanish speaker, so do a lot with the Latinos. And I'm also in Iowa, and I'm working at a prison in Iowa that is focused only on people with crimes of a sexual nature. And I'd like to know how you are handling, when you talk about formerly incarcerated students, how you're handling the sex offense registry. In the Midwest, we are having such a hard time with that issue. To give you one example, at Newton Correctional in Iowa, they have a college, Grinnell College, that gives classes to the incarcerated men, and they make it amply clear on a regular basis that those men are not welcome on campus ever. Don't ever set foot on the campus. It's so degrading because they have crimes of a sexual nature, and it's just so demeaning and so frustrating. So I'd like to know how you are handling people who are formerly incarcerated but on the registry.
This is the thing with something like that, is we don't ask. And that's kind of that's kind of like how it is in prison too. You don't ask what people's crime is. But also I want to also say that some of their parole conditions, they're not allowed to come on campus. So depending on that, we're not going to ask them what they're here, what were you locked up for? We don't ask them that. But a lot of times you will see that on their parole conditions, they're not supposed to be at any educational institution, any park, anywhere near kids. Where there's a lot of like community gathering, like some of those parole conditions prevent them from coming here, but we don't ask them.
One of the really frustrating things has been this, that people in society, there's this blanket that goes over those cases and people just assume that they're children. I'm working with one man who was incarcerated for urinating in public, a 19-year-old freshman on a college campus, and in Iowa, that is a sex offense. No children in the case, no assault, no rape, nothing. Urinating in public as a stupid 19-year-old kid. And in Iowa, he's not allowed. Well, yeah, I mean, it's the same as if he were at the other end of the spectrum. And yeah, it's just a real challenge.
For us, I can speak to it because we previously didn't have any challenges with this, but we recently had to deal with a student who they couldn't be around in the dorms,
Mm,
but the university was able to give them. We have family housing, graduate family housing, so they were able to give them their own apartment. And
Cool.
so for us, I mean, as long as their parole allows it, like Vanessa said, but
Yeah.
we're public institutions, so we can't discriminate, you know. And we don't ask as a program, we don't ask unless students come forward and request, um, assistance with navigating the university. But fortunately for us, our campus, it's housing has been accommodating for our students. Yeah, in some cases they've actually even put barriers to the parole agent because the parole agents want to come and knock whenever they want. And the university, depending on which campus community they're on, because we have several, will not allow them to. So they have to go to like the front office first and get permission and then go see the student.
Thank you so much. Really good work. Yeah, it's much more severe in the Midwest. The public universities are asking and they are discriminating. And it's, California's going to be a leader on this, I think. Thank you so much.
Are they allowed to
On the
do
same page
online
too.
classes?
Yes, yes, yes.
Because
And
that
that's,
happened with one of our students. He was coming in for in-person classes and they told him he would have to do online. But after there was no more online classes to finish his major, they went ahead and let him to come on. That was after a year of showing that he's been a good student and
Yeah.
he's now able to come on campus. One, because it was sexual with the minors, he's never going to be allowed to be on campus because we have a daycare on
Yeah.
our campus and we have smaller children, but he is able to do it online also.
yeah. Thank you.
I know we're running out of time and there's a couple of people on the chat that want to ask a couple of questions. And what we'll do is if you guys can put your email on the chat and then they can follow up with those questions in particular. Because I have a couple of things that I want to discuss before we close out our meeting. And we have very similar situations here in Florida. And Florida is a very, as you can imagine, a very tough state in all levels. And what they do is they're only able to do online when that's a possibility. If not, I mean, there really isn't much that they can do. It's very unfortunate. And they have so many barriers, but that is one that is a lifelong barrier here in the state of Florida. So it's things that we're trying to break through. But with that, I just want to do a couple of updates with our subcommittee meetings. I know that we're not going to have time to discuss what developments they are currently working on right now, but I do want to share some news with you guys that our formerly federal chair subcommittee has now been is now joined our steering committee, and she's now one of our chairs in the steering committee. So I'm excited about that. So Sheila Myman has joined our board of directors. But with that, I say that I do have some available seats if you're interested in joining our subcommittees. And those are the state, the federal, the event, the social media or media messaging, and the membership. And the state and federal obviously deal with state and federal policies, and we're working on some advocacy that we have done. And during our Hill Day this year, we're planning for another event in DC next year for our legislative asks. So if you want to be part of those, I urge you to join those subcommittees. And of course, we're always looking for the event, because that's part of the event that we're doing for our Hill Day. In addition to that, our membership, we want to not only grow our membership, which has been, very excitingly growing, steadily growing this year, but we also want to have more engagement, because I feel that, you guys are the experts. You guys have the work. You guys are doing the work and have the solutions. So we want to bring in that information to more and more members out in the community. So if you're interested in being part of that expansion as well, I urge you to join us in that part. And lastly, There's a couple of events that are coming up. The Palm Beach County Reentry Summit in Palm Beach, October 9th through the 11th next week. So I don't know if there's still registration available, but that is one of the largest reentry events that are happening here in the Florida state. It is in South Florida. We have the NCHEP conference going on in New Orleans next year, April 9th to the 11th. It is open for proposals now. So if you're interested in joining that conference, which is a phenomenal event, I urge you to submit proposals. They're requesting them for that. And any other quick business before we close out that you guys want to share? Sheila, any words of encouragement now that we are closing out this year and headed with a new leadership onto 2025?
Thanks, Judith. I just would encourage all of you, if this is your first time here, please don't make it your last time here. The advocacy that we do, which is one of the central reasons for Unlock Higher Ed, depends on having a broad set of voices involved. And so please stay involved, please come to monthly meetings, and please think about a committee. Federal, if your passion is talking to federal legislators, state, if you'd like to keep it closer to home, there's lots of work to be done in each of the 50 states. If you are good at communicating, connect with Mickey, because there's lots of good stuff that can happen there. So we appreciate your involvement.
Thank you guys for joining. And again, a prayer up for those who have been impacted by these current storms. Please keep it safe. And thank you so much for all the work you're doing. It really makes a difference. It takes a village, and I'm happy to see a village here in front of us today. So thank you for being part of that.
Thank you so much for inviting us. And real quick, before I leave, I put my email in the chat. We have a documentary. I forgot to mention that. One of my projects here is doing documentary screenings in prisons, in jails. We did a big one on Alcatraz Island last month. Over 400 people came nationwide. So if you're interested in viewing this documentary, we're going to do a mass distribution, and it's going to be free because we need to get the message out there about the program and our people. So if you're interested, please send me an email and we'll put you on the distribution list. Thank you so much, you guys.
I also shared my email in the chat, so feel free to reach out with any follow-up questions.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.